The laughter on the deck was loud, laced with champagne and cruelty. The sun was sinking into the ocean, painting the sky in blood-orange streaks. Wind brushed past expensive gowns, gold cufflinks, and champagne flutes as the yacht gently rocked under the weight of the elite. But I wasn't watching the sunset. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I was too focused on keeping my son calm. Liam, my 6-year-old, was holding my hand tightly, his small fingers sticky from the chocolate-covered strawberry he was halfway through. His eyes darted nervously toward my sister, Vanessa, who was standing near the yacht's edge, dressed in a sleek white graduation gown, clinking glasses with our parents. A fake halo around a venomous heart. "Mommy, can we go now?" Liam whispered, tugging on my arm. "We'll leave soon, baby," I murmured, forcing a smile. My stomach had been in knots since we stepped aboard this floating stage of lies. The entire celebration was a farce. I wasn't invited. Vanessa had made that painfully clear with her accidental omission, but Liam and I showed up anyway. My mother had raised an eyebrow when she saw me. My father just turned away. But they didn't ask us to leave. They didn't need to. They had a plan. "Hey, loser," Vanessa called out suddenly, waving me over. "Don't be a wallflower. Come take a picture with the real success in the family." People turned. Some chuckled. Some just sipped and watched. I didn't move. Vanessa's smile stretched wider. "Come on, Leah. Let's make a memory." Liam looked up at me with wide eyes. "Do we have to?" Before I could answer, she was walking over. My mother followed her, eyes sharp, jaw clenched. The air suddenly felt different. Vanessa reached us, eyes gleaming. "Let me help you get a better view of the ocean." Then it happened. Fast. A shove, sharp and sudden. My heels scraped the deck. My body twisted. And then, another shove, harder this time. From behind. I spun in midair, arms reaching for Liam, but he was already falling, small arms flailing. My scream tore through the wind. "Liam!" And as my feet left the deck, I turned just in time to see my mother's cold, perfect smile. "This is where you both end," she said flatly. Vanessa's smirk cut deeper than the salt water that crashed into my mouth. "Bye-bye, dead weights." We hit the ocean like broken dolls. Salt. Darkness. Cold. Liam's scream was muffled by the waves. I fought to get to him, fought with every limb, every breath, adrenaline turning my arms into engines. My lungs burned. My dress dragged me down like chains. I reached him, held him. He was crying, panicking, kicking. "Mommy, mommy, I'm here. I've got you, baby." The yacht didn't slow down. No one shouted. No one threw a life ring. No one looked back. They just sailed away like we never existed. We treaded water for what felt like forever, waves swallowing our cries as the yacht grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared into the dying light. There was no moon yet, just the cold sea and the weight of betrayal pressing on my chest like an anchor. I was shaking. From cold. From fury. From the echo of my mother's voice. "This is where you both end." How many times had I forgiven them? How many times had I made excuses for the way they treated me like a stain on their polished image? And now they had tried to erase me. Erase us. Liam was sobbing against my shoulder, clinging to me with all the strength his tiny body could muster. "Mommy, I'm scared. Are we dying?" "No," I said, voice trembling.
"No, baby.
Not today. Not like this." I scanned the horizon, adrenaline fighting off the cold. Somewhere in the distance, faint lights flickered. Another boat. Maybe. Maybe hope. I started swimming, holding Liam above water with one arm and kicking with the other. Every stroke tore fire through my muscles, but I didn't stop.
Couldn't.
Hours blurred. Salt burned my throat, my eyes. Liam passed out in my arms at some point. I screamed for help, again and again, until my voice was just a scratch in the wind. Then a light. A spotlight cutting through the black. Voices.
Hands.
We were pulled aboard by a small fishing boat, two older men with rough hands and concerned eyes, lifting Liam first, then me. My body collapsed onto the deck like dead weight, but I clutched my son's hand like a lifeline. Jesus, one man muttered. What the hell happened to you two? I opened my mouth, but the only thing that came out was a sob. A deep, shaking sob from the pit of my soul. Not from fear. Not from exhaustion. From the realization that my own mother had looked me in the eye and smiled. And let go. The hospital was cold. Too clean. Too quiet. Liam was safe, sleeping under a heated blanket. No water in his lungs, thank God. But the nurses kept looking at me like I was made of glass. Like I might shatter any second. A detective arrived. I told him what happened. Every word, every shove, every scream. But his face didn't shift. You have any proof? He asked, arms crossed. Proof. I whispered, voice cracked. You think I made this up? No, he said carefully. But your family's influential. Powerful. They've already filed a report saying you were drunk, emotionally unstable, and jumped overboard. I laughed, broken and bitter. Of course they did. He looked uncomfortable. We'll investigate. I nodded. You do that. 2 days later, I stood in front of my childhood home. Liam was at a friend's house, safe for now. I stared at the gate, the white columns, the roses lining the driveway like they guarded royalty. The same house where I grew up in shadows. Where love was conditional. Where I was taught that perfection was everything, and I was anything but. I walked up the steps slowly. I rang the bell. It was Vanessa who opened the door. Her smile vanished when she saw me. You, what the hell? I stepped forward. She stepped back. You thought I drowned, I said calmly. You wanted me to. You're insane, she hissed, trying to slam the door, but I held it open. Is Mom here? She doesn't want to see you. I'm sure. Vanessa's face twisted. You should have stayed gone. This was supposed to be my moment. I tilted my head. It still is. You just don't know how it's going to end. Then I turned around and walked away. Not because I was scared. Because they weren't ready for what was coming. I didn't just survive. I resurrected. 3 days after the fall, after the betrayal, after the water swallowed the last pieces of the old Leah, I stood in front of a mirror in a second-hand apartment and stared at the stranger I had become. My reflection looked haunted, salt-burned skin, tired eyes, lips cracked. But beneath that, fire. I picked up the phone and called a name I hadn't spoken aloud in years. Hello, the voice answered cautiously. Julian. It's Leah. There was silence, then a sharp inhale.
Leah?
Leah Grant? After all these years. I need your help, I said. You once told me, when you finally decide to stop being their punching bag, call me. Well, I'm calling. His voice steadied. Where are you? Julian Rains wasn't just anyone. He was my ex-fiancé, before my family humiliated him out of my life, calling him a gold digger because he wasn't born with a silver spoon. But he wasn't after my money.
He was after me. And now?
Now, he was one of the sharpest corporate restructuring consultants on the East Coast. And a quiet billionaire. I told him everything. Not in tears. Not in weakness. I told him like a woman reading her own autopsy. He didn't blink. You want revenge? I nodded. I want them to feel what I felt. I want them to scream like I did when I hit the ocean. But not with water in their lungs, with truth. I want to destroy their lies. He leaned forward, eyes glowing. Then you're going to need power. And the first step? Money. He smirked.
No.
Information. Weeks passed. Every night I tucked Liam in tighter. Every morning I ran 6 miles until my legs ached. Julian built the plan. I studied it like scripture. My family thought I'd crawled back under whatever rock I came from. They didn't know I was collecting secrets. Vanessa's scholarships?
Bought.
Dad's offshore accounts?
Dirty.
Mom's pristine reputation? Stained with old affairs and a hush-money abortion she forced a maid into 20 years ago. I gathered receipts like I was building an empire. And I was A media friend Julian knew started poking around the yacht. A whistleblower from the kitchen crew reached out. She saw everything. Heard everything. I heard your mom say, if she floats back, we'll say she jumped. If not, problem solved. I recorded it. We had it. Now, we set the match. The morning it all began was bright and clear. Vanessa was holding a press event, an engagement announcement, and public charity partnership. My parents had built her up as the golden daughter, the face of perfection. I walked in, heels clicking like thunder, wearing a white silk blouse, Liam's hand in mine. Cameras turned. Gasps erupted. Vanessa's jaw dropped. What the how? You look surprised to see a ghost, I said into the mic a reporter shoved in my face. I turned to the crowd. Let me reintroduce myself. I'm Leah Grant, the woman my family tried to drown on a yacht 3 weeks ago. And I'm not dead. A ripple of gasps swept through the audience. You pushed me, I said to Vanessa, and you smiled while I fell. Then I pulled out a flash drive. The world deserves to know what happens when power turns into poison. The press went wild. Within hours, headlines exploded. Socialite tried to drown sister? Investigation reopened. This is where you both end. Cold words from a cold matriarch. Old money, new crimes. The internet devoured it. Sponsors pulled out. Vanessa's fiancé vanished. And my mother? She was dragged into a storm of her own scandals, unpaid taxes, secret accounts, past abuse allegations. The woman who smiled as I sank was now drowning in disgrace. But this wasn't over. I wasn't done. I wanted them to break. They tried to destroy me in silence. So I destroyed them in the spotlight. By day 3, their empire was cracking. My mother had gone into hiding, citing health issues. My father released a half-baked statement blaming miscommunication and emotional misunderstanding. And Vanessa? Vanessa begged me. She showed up outside my apartment at midnight, hair disheveled, mascara running, screaming up at my window like a scene from a B-movie. Leah,
Please.
you have no idea what you've done. They're threatening to cut us off. We're losing everything. I stood at the window, holding Liam in my arms. He was asleep, safe, finally breathing without fear. I didn't shout back. I simply closed the curtains. The next day, I walked into my father's company, the billion-dollar real estate firm I once interned at without pay, the one they said I was too emotional to ever belong in. Julian had done more than just help me survive. He'd helped me by controlling shares. And as of that morning, I was now the majority shareholder. I arrived in black slacks, red lipstick, and no apology. The boardroom went silent when I walked in. My father stood at the head of the table, white-knuckling the back of his chair. You, he said, voice dry. Me, I replied, sliding into the seat next to the legal counsel. Effective immediately, I'll be taking over your position. The shareholders voted this morning. You, he stammered. You don't have the experience, the connections. Wrong, I said smoothly. I have the numbers. I have the board. And most importantly, I leaned forward. I have the receipts. I laid out files on the table. Embezzlement.
Bribes.
Phantom properties. His eyes widened. My voice never shook. You'll step down. Or the next press release will end with you in handcuffs. He stood there, frozen. A man who'd built his world on control, now helpless as it collapsed. You ungrateful. I interrupted. Ungrateful. For years. For not seeing sooner that blood doesn't always mean family. That night, I sat in Julian's downtown penthouse, watching the news on a wall-sized screen. Liam sat on my lap, eating popcorn, eyes wide. There's Mommy, he whispered, pointing to the screen. I kissed his forehead. That's right, baby. That's Mommy. The anchor's voice was crisp. In a shocking turn, Leah Grant has not only survived the attempted murder, but has now taken over her family's flagship company, while the investigation into the yacht incident intensifies. Anonymous witnesses continue to come forward. I turned off the TV. The silence felt full.
Healing.
Julian poured me a glass of wine and sat beside me. How does it feel? Like justice, I said. But not enough yet. He raised an eyebrow. Still not done. I looked out the window, where the lights of the city flickered like stars trying to survive the smog. No, I whispered. Not until they feel what it's like to be forgotten. The final strike was poetic. 1 week later, I sent Vanessa a letter. No return address.
No threats.
Just 3 words. You earned this. Attached was a legal document. It showed that the trust fund my grandparents left had never been touched because I had taken control of it. Quietly. Legally. Every cent now went into a foundation for single mothers and abandoned children. Children like Liam. Mothers like me. Vanessa's inheritance?
Gone.
Her career? Burned. Her name? Poisoned. My mother was last. She called me once. Just once. Leah, her voice was weak, distant. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I held the phone, then ended the call. Without a word. Because some silence is louder than screaming. 3 months later, peace didn't feel like silence. It felt like strength. I stood in front of a full auditorium, dressed in a soft navy suit, microphone in hand, Liam seated in the front row, kicking his legs and beaming. The backdrop behind me read, "The Leah Grant Foundation. Launch Gala for Forgotten Mothers." We live in a world, I said to the audience, where people confuse wealth with worth, where you're only respected if you have a name that opens doors. But let me tell you something. My voice caught just for a moment, but I steadied it. It was only when I lost everything, my dignity, my family, even my safety, that I found something no money ever gave me, the right to exist on my own terms. To rise without permission. Applause thundered through the room. But behind my smile, the memories still lived. That night on the yacht. The shove. The cold water. Liam's cries. My mother's smile. Vanessa's smirk. The ocean. Some scars you don't erase, you own them. My father never recovered. He lost the company, the house, the standing ovations he was used to. He tried to make a comeback, but everywhere he turned, people whispered behind his back, wondered aloud about the daughter he left for dead. He sent me a letter once. It just said, "You destroyed us." I never replied, because I didn't destroy them. They did. I just stopped saving them from the consequences. Vanessa was spotted working a front desk PR job in a hotel in Miami. No spotlights. No cameras. Just cheap perfume and laminated badges. Someone sent me her photo, looking worn and weary. I didn't smile. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt done. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's moving on. And my mother? She disappeared to Europe, clinging to some old money and older secrets. She avoided jail thanks to her lawyer's backdoor deals, but the world she ruled no longer listened to her. No calls. No invitations. She became a ghost. Just like she tried to make me. As for Liam and me, we live in a quiet house near the ocean now. Yes, the ocean. People ask me how I can live by the water again. But I don't fear it anymore. The water didn't try to kill me.
They did.
And I didn't drown. I rose. One night, as the waves whispered just beyond our porch, Liam asked, "Mommy, why did they push us?" I paused, bent down beside him, held his hand. "Because they thought we were weak," I said gently. "But they didn't know what strength looks like until they saw us survive." He nodded slowly, then looked up at the stars. "Are they gone forever?" I wrapped my arm around him. "Maybe not forever," I said. "But they're not part of our story anymore." The next morning, the doorbell rang. It was a delivery man. He handed me a small velvet box and an envelope with no return address. Inside was a sapphire necklace, my grandmother's. The one I was told was lost at sea. The note read, "I kept this safe. I didn't agree with what they did. You deserved it. From someone who was too afraid to speak until now." No name. No explanation. Just a quiet reminder that even in darkness, some people are still watching, still listening, still believing. And so I held my son's hand, turned from the door, and walked back into our new life. One built not on blood, but on truth and survival. and the kind of love they could never destroy. If this story hits you even a little, just hit that like button. It helps more than you think. Don't forget to subscribe if you've ever felt this kind of pain. You're not alone.